Excellent. Thank you so much. Thank you, Klaus Theater, for inviting me to participate in this. It's been very enriching these last few days. And I've learned a lot. So I've really enjoyed being here with all of you and listening to all of you. Thank you to Marcus and everyone at Sadra Foundation for supporting all the scholarship that you do, as well as everything else you do in the translation work and so forth. And thank you for Alexander for helping with so many things, including printing my last minute paper this morning. So this is a book that Klaus and I have edited and includes contributors, many of which are actually in the room. Douglas, David Higgins, Martina, Dorje. And it's exclusively on different perspectives on Zhentong from different traditions. Today I'll be discussing Tantric visions of Tathāgatagarbha, really within the Kālacakra material, okay? So we're just looking at one system here and how it was interpreted by figures from the 11th to the 14th century in Tibet, in Tsang, in south-central Tibet. Through the Dro Kālacakra lineage, and this tradition became known as Zhentong. Okay? Sometime during what was likely the fall of 1322, at the age of 30, the contemplative scholar Dolpopa Sherab Gyaltsen traveled from where he was studying at Sakya Monastery in southern Tibet to the mountain hermitage nestled deep in the Jommanang Valley to meet the Kālacakra adept Yunten Jamso and receive full empowerment to the Kālacakra Tantra. So this is the very valley. This is actually a photo that I took perched on Dolpopa's, it's called his Zimkong Dewachen, where he lived. So this is the view from where he lived. On this occasion, Yunchen Jamso transmitted along with the initiation several distinct lineages of guidance instruction on the sixfold Vajra Yoga, the Dorji Nal Jorwa Yanlak Drukpa, completion stage processes of the Kālacakra system. Following these transmissions, Dolpopa immediately went into secluded retreat at Kachin Deden, the bliss-infused enjoyment of space meditation cave at Zhentong. After his retreat, Dolpopa spent the next year traveling from Zhentong to Sakya, back and forth, nearby hermitages and monasteries to give and receive teachings. 3 years later, in 1325, upon returning to the Zhentong hermitage, Dolpopa entered into strict retreat for a year, again in the Kachin Deden cave, to practice the sixfold yoga. It was during this intensive retreat period, writes his biographer, Kumpan Chudrak Palzang, that Dolpopa initially tasted the fruits of the first 4 of the 6 branches of the Vajra Yoga, so-called image of emptiness. As a result of the yoga of individual withdrawal, which is the first of the 6, and meditative stabilization, the second, he is said to have experienced resplendent visions of Buddhas and Buddha fields as a result of the yoga of harnessing the breath and the yoga of retention, third and fourth. He experienced blazing, blissful warmth for the yogic procedures that required withdrawal of the sense faculties from the sensible objects. Dolpopa meditated in the dark room, the Munkang, in the cave. According to the 17th century Jonangpa Taranatha, it was a result of these meditative experiences that emerged from practicing the Vajra Yoga during the second extended retreat at Zhentong that Dolpopa began to formulate his distinct synthesis of emptiness into Tathāgatagarbha, which became his hallmark teaching, now known as Zhentong. For Dolpopa and the Zhentong tradition, perfection of the Kālacakra sixfold completion stage yoga that is composed of 6 successive ancillary phases is the apex of contemplative practice. Performance of these six distinct tantric yogic procedures is understood by the Zhentong tradition to be an extraordinary efficient process of successive unfoldment to unexcelled Buddhahood, Samyak Sambodhi. Due largely to its late arrival and reception in the 11th century, during the later transmission and dissemination of Buddhist tantras, the Kālacakra had a profound impact on tantric Buddhist thought and practice in Tibet. As new orders emerged during the 11th through the 13th centuries, each sought to align their identity with distinct aspects of Indic Buddhist thought and practice, including distinct bodies of yogic and tantric knowledge. Starting from the 11th century, Tibetans wrote prolifically on Kālacakra practice. Descriptive writings on the practices and the yogic experiences that emerged during the sixfold Vajra Yoga are derived directly from the extensive Kālacakra canonical Indic literature, especially the Sekodesha, the Laghu Kālacakra, detailed Vimalaprabha, or stainless light commentary on the root verses by Pundarika, and the commentary on difficult points, the Kadril of the Tantra by Kālacakra Pada, titled Benmachen, the Lotus Girl. Since there were myriad streams of tantric transmission occurring and a tremendous cross-fertilization amongst tantric systems during the formative period, it became incredibly important to symbolize and codify these disparate tantric systems. In the case of the Kālacakra Tantra, the Tibetan yogi Kumpan Tukche Sundrup, the first Jonangpa, synthesized 17 different transmission lineages of the Kālacakra sixfold Vajra Yoga. It's consolidated and recorded existing whispered instructions and oral histories of the Tantra for the first time. Kumpampa's project brought together written and oral instructions from the Tibetan forefathers of the lineage, including those from Mikyo Dorje, who was born in 1027. Dro Kālacakra lineage forefather, who was claimed to be the earliest author to articulate a view of Tantra Zhentong, something that gets called later, Naki Zhentong. Their writings, particularly Yumowa's Cycle of the Four Illuminated Lamps and the numerous guidance manuals and condensation of the Kālacakra Tantra composed by Kumpan Tukche Sundrup, had a profound impact on Dopopa. This distinct philosophical and contemplative understanding of Tantra Zhentong, a vision that is claimed to derive from Dopopa's direct experience practicing the sixfold yoga, synthesizes the doctrines of emptiness and Tathāgatagarbha, drawing from Sutra and Tantra, consequently generating both magnetic interest as well as historic polemic in Tibet. To understand how Tantric philosophy of Tathāgatagarbha developed across intellectual discourses in Tibet, I argue that we must understand the Zhentong vision of the Kālacakra sixfold Vajra Yoga that describes natural-born phenomena known to be the image of emptiness, the Shunyata Bimba, Tongpa Niki Zuknyen. As we will see, it is these image of emptiness described to ensue directly from the Kālacakra Vajra practice that Dopopa and later Jonang authors correlate directly with absolute expressions of Tathāgatagarbha, suggesting that Tathāgatagarbha can be accessed via precise contemplative technique. Here I will discuss how a descriptive language for emptiness that is detailed in the Kālacakra literature based on practice of the sixfold Vajra Yoga is explicitly connected by Dopopa and two of his closest disciples, Nyawang Kungapal and Chokle Namgyal, with the Tathāgatagarbha doctrine. In so doing, my comments will be limited to the early Jonang tradition from the 11th to the 14th century, give preliminary attention to questions about the contextualization of Tathāgatagarbha within Tantric philosophy in Tibet. Vajra Yoga involves a progressive visionary integration of imagery of emptiness, through each of the 6 phases of the yogic process, culminating in the coalescence of ordinary forms or images with the sublime image of emptiness, which is the Kālacakra deity itself. At this point of coalescence in the completion stage yoga, there is no imagined deity or deity and consort that remains, as is developed during the generation stage. Rather, the consort is known as the Mahamudra image of emptiness, the Chakchen Chempo Tongzuk, which is naturally arisen, blissful emptiness. Imagining a consort is conceptual method that is abandoned during the stage of completion, of generation, or abandoned during the stage of completion. The image of emptiness is said to emerge during the first yoga, that of individual withdrawal, and is understood by the Jonang Kālacakra tradition to be natural manifestations of Tathāgatagarbha. What is emphasized throughout Dopopa's writings and those of later Jonang authors is that the image of emptiness is experiential, and that such visionary experiences emerge from the careful execution of the yogic procedures explicated in the Vajra Yoga practice to totally withdraw the sense perceptions from mundane stimuli. This suggests that the image of emptiness is an experience that arises from contemplation, and that the image of emptiness is experientially accessible via precise yogic technique based because it is ontologically enduring. It's something you can tap into. The normative Tibetan term employed throughout the literature is tongzuk, which literally means and gets translated often as empty forms. And however, the full phrase that this abbreviates, or is an abbreviation for, is Tongpa Niki Zuk Nyen, which literally means a reflection of emptiness or an expression of emptiness. Tibetan authors typically abbreviate this to be Ton Niki Zuk, a phrase that I'm translating as image of emptiness. And here, image, again, correlative to the Kālacakra, deity. While the phenomena is in fact a form, zuk, parallel to the six sense objects, it is more properly conceived in the literature to be an image that has the capacity to be a reflection, zuk nyen. This is also referred to as the image of wisdom, the prajna bimba. Though this language is specific to the Kālacakra tradition, the phrase tongzuk is used in other contexts, perhaps most notably within the Mahamudra literature, including within the corpus of Doha by the Mahasiddhas, which we find in the Tengyur. The phrase evokes a simile of an image that manifests like a reflection in a mirror. This special Dharma language derives from the Kālacakra Mula Tantra, where the simile is employed in the Sekodesha. And thank you, Giacomello, for your work on this, which I've drawn from. The largest section of the Parimati Buddha, to describe the visionary manifestations that appear to a yogi in the sky while practicing the sixfold Vajra Yoga. So according to the Sekodesha, it reads, with the eyes half open, half closed, in the empty, where no trace can be imagined, an image will be perceived, like in a dream. Meditate continually on this image. This meditation on immaterial images is not a meditation for yogis, because the mind is without the material or immaterial. This is unimagined perceiving in the empty. Just like a young girl perceives prognostic images in a mirror that are born immaterial, in this way, past and future phenomena are in the sky for a yogi. In this image, there is neither material nor immaterial, because the matter that is perceived is in fact empty. Its empirical existence is neither material nor immaterial, like a hallucination, a dream, an optical illusion. This passage introduces the Kālacakra imagery of emptiness by drawing from the Indian prognostication rite, wherein a young virgin girl divines prognostic images. This is called pratisina. While her eyes are blindfolded, and then she looks into a mirror. So she's blindfolded, she receives the blessings of the guru, and she looks into a mirror, which is this mirror divination rite. These are seen by her mind that is empowered by her guru's mind and not by her own eyes. Prognostic images are described to be neither material, ngupo, nor immaterial, ngume, and are analogized to be an optical illusion, a migdal. The images of emptiness for a yogi is likened to the image seen by a virgin girl in a prognostic mirror, is that it is immaterial, because the image of the future events that are prognosticated have not occurred, have not come into existence. They do not reflect events outside the mirror. In the same way, the image of emptiness is perceived by a yogi while it is not existent. Another dimension emphasized is that while image of emptiness is an expression of emptiness, it is not an expression of a nihilistic vacuum. The image is rather described to be an expression of visceral bliss, nangi dewa, that naturally emerges as a practitioner proceeds through the successive yogas. Elaborating on this point, Vimalaprabha commentary reads, in the ether of sky, emptiness with the every expression, the nampa tamchepi tongpa, is definitively perceived to be birthless phenomena, like prognostic images in a mirror. In fact, these are conceived to be analogous to dreams that intensely appear to be fabricated by your own mind. When the phenomenal identity of subatomic particles are thoroughly analyzed to be empty, this creates nihilistic emptiness. What you yearn is the phenomena of visceral bliss that is a reference to your own awareness. Having fully renounced the phenomenal bliss that is taken to be the reference to your own awareness, due to external forces, uniquely adept at stabilizing the bodhicitta that is endowed with the identity of wisdom and method, having received spoken instructions for the path of wisdom and gnosis that is supreme immutable bliss. Great bliss. This is not what is asserted to be fully imagined phenomena that are the supports and markers for support. Colors, gestures, shapes, and the mandala of the deity. So he's saying these are not conjured as you would find in the K-rim, right? And this, of course, is a reference here to sexual yoga. Hence, what is described is not an emptiness that results from intellectual analysis, or chepa, equated with a nihilistic emptiness, a chepe tongpanye. Not born from vacuity, the image of emptiness is not a phenomena that exists suspended in a split-off visual domain, nor is it a cerebral conjecture that occurs in an abstract sphere of the intellect. Danger is to conceive the image of emptiness to be an external object, a chidan, or a thing that can be seen out there in the world. Making the point that the image of emptiness gives rise to bliss, Vimalaprabha prioritizes these squarely in the domain of experience, not abstract analysis. The bliss that the yogi yearns for is the bliss born from experience. However, the danger being flagged is to not succumb to the bliss that comes about due to external forces, the chirogiwang. That is, inducing something from outside oneself that would reify the dualistic paradigms that are antithetical to this blissful yogic realization. This is further emphasized by warning that what is not being discussed here are the generation stage contemplations that intentionally and constructively simulate a deity to be imputed or an imagined phenomena. Takpeche. So we're going to now look at what the Jonangpas have to say about this, okay? The point is creatively elucidated by the 11th century Tibetan Kālacakra adept Humomikyo Dorje, a figure who had profound impact on the subsequent reception of the Vajra Yoga practice lineages and a conspicuous influence on Dopopa. Humoa's work, Lamp That Illuminates Emptiness, one of the cycles in his fourfold illuminated lamp, is dedicated exclusively to commentating on the verse of the sadhana chapter of the Kālacakra Tantra that describes the visual manifestation of the deity to be the Mahamudra, the Chakchen Chempo, as the dynamic expression of emptiness. This verse describes Vishvamata, the consort of the Kālacakra, and who Humoa, following the Lotus Scroll commentary, equates with the mother of Buddhas, Prajna Paramita. In this way, she is emblematic of both the esoteric reality of the Tantric consort as well as the female embodiment of emptiness. Humoa discerns the emptiness that is devoid of an intrinsic reality that is precluded from being cognized or experienced because it cannot become an object of the intellect. For Humoa, Vishvamata is not recognized or cognized or conjured. She is observable emptiness, the mikpa dang chepe tongpanye, born from yogic contemplation. She is known to be a Mahamudra image of emptiness, a Chakchen Chempo Tongzuk. Following the verses above from the Sekudesha, her image appears as emptiness where no trace can be imagined. Jaitakmin. Following the passage from Kālacakra's Lotus Scroll, she appears to be neither internal nor external. Such imagery of emptiness, or in this case, emptiness herself, is understood not to be contingent on perception or memory, not accessed via inference, therefore not a product of imagination. For the Kālacakra, yogic vision of Vishvamata is the singular expressive force of the Gnostic universe. For Dopopa, whose hermeneutical project is to syncretize the sutras and tantras, the image of emptiness is not an obscure reference to be found only in the esoteric language from the Kālacakra sources, but is contextualized more broadly throughout Buddhist literature, referencing how the intangible phenomenon of it is experienced. In his Richa, his Mountain Dharma anthology, Dopopa quotes the Mahapari Nirvana Sutra and adds interlinear commentary. Furthermore, this is how it is taught that adventitious stains and Tathāgatagarbha are empty, Dopopa says. Moreover, the Mahaparinirvana Sutra eloquently discusses the distinctions between that which is associated with an image of emptiness, that which is associated with an image of what is not empty. Kaudinya, the image with stains is empty of an inherent nature, And the Chen in the brackets is not mine. It's actually Chen by Dolpopa in his own Richa. Okay? Due to conditions of cessation, there is also an image of emptiness. This is realized to be a completely free image of Tathāgatagarbha that is not empty. Similarly, fully recognize that there are these two intervals for sensations, perceptions, impressions, and consciousness. He says these two, right? Meaning the two types of images. As it says here, there are degrees to an image with adventitious stains and so forth. This is precisely emptiness devoid of substance, the emptiness of being empty, and that which itself is empty of an inherent essence. There is also the nature or the image of Tathāgatagarbha and so forth. That is the emptiness of the very nature of what is devoid of substance and the emptiness of what is not empty. This is ultimate Zhentong. Dundangi Zhentong. With Dolpopa, we see the hard pivot to equate the image of emptiness with Tathāgatagarbha, asserting that this, in fact, is Zhentong. Echoed in his sutra quote, the meaning stressed in the context of the Kālacakra sixfold Vajra Yoga terminology is that this expression is a natural manifestation of absolute emptiness. Dolpopa's commentary on the quote, we read the characterization of this elusive expression of non-emptiness as in fact the image of Tathāgatagarbha. Warning his reader not to conflate the expression of the conventional with the ultimate, Dolpopa reminds his reader that these are actually an expression of the indwelling Tathāgatagarbha that continually pervades things stable, wavering, tangible, intangible. With this, he points to the key variable in the Zhentong code. Continuing in another work of his, the general commentary on the doctrine, Dolpopa discusses the causality of Tathāgatagarbha. And this is the smoking gun. Okay, there's several verses here which I don't have time to go through, but this is the kind of smoking gun. I bow to you who teach that the Tathāgatagarbha has another cause and effect. Its other cause is the luminous reflection of emptiness. This is Tongpaniki Zuknyen. And its other result is immutable great bliss. Remember the great bliss. Analogous to the 8 prognostic images. Okay, so he's equating them very clearly. Making sense of this dense and terse stanza, Nyawang Kungapal, who's one of Dolpopa's closest disciples, frames his commentary, which he wrote a whole commentary on this general commentary on the doctrine, which Dolpopa wrote, one of his major treatises, in terms of teaching the consummate empty bliss, the Daetong. So this is Nyawang Kungapal's commentary on this verse. To begin, according to the numerous sutras and tantras that have been taught, all living beings are endowed with Tathāgatagarbha. When it reads, quote, the Tathāgata has another cause and result. Moreover, this cause and result is not a producer and a product, like a seed and a sprout. From the Vimalaprabha commentary on the Kālacakra, it reads, accordingly, there is another cause and another result, an unconditioned cause and result. Furthermore, the other cause is the naturally luminous emptiness that is endowed with all sublime attributes. So what is this? This is a reflection of emptiness, an image of emptiness that is directly perceived during the yoga of individual withdrawal and so forth. This is also referred to in the Prajnaparamitra Sutras and elsewhere as the image of true reality, and so on. These are synonyms to describe the echo of emptiness, the tonyiki dranyen, the sound of true reality, the chiniki dra, and so on. So now, right, shifting perceptual domains. The other result is immutable great bliss, the nature of which is not merely the bliss of immutable melting bliss. This result is said to be free from causes other than that which come from the ultimate meditation on luminous emptiness. Connecting the images of emptiness that are said to be emergent from the first yoga of withdrawal, with the descriptions of the Prajnaparamita Sutras of the images of reality, Nyawang highlights Dolpopa's syncretic hermeneutic, interpreting sutras by means of tantras, vice versa. In so doing, he opens wider fields of perceptual experience that include not only visual, but also the auditory, citing that emptiness is not only seen, but is heard as echoes and sounds, etc. He switches registers from cause to result to make the direct correlation between an experience of immutable bliss that emerges from meditation on naturally luminous emptiness. I'm going to skip ahead due to time, but he continues to quote and unpack that verse. Nyawang does. I'm now going to switch and talk about Chokle Namgyal, who again was one of the closest disciples of Dolpopa, and was appointed by Dolpopa as his Dharma heir to the throne in the year 1354 at Zhentong. And Chokle Namgyal is probably the most prolific author on the Kālacakra that in the Zhentong tradition, certainly the early Zhentong tradition. And he wrote all sorts of things, including a condensation of the Vimalaprabha, and praises to Shambhala, and some extraordinary works on the sixfold Vajra Yoga. So I will skip ahead here in time. Yeah, way ahead. In his detailed Vajra Yoga guidance text, pointing out the ground and path fruition, the text that Taranatha most likely cites when he references the main instruction manual that was practiced at the Zhentong Mountain Hermitage up until his revision of this material in the 1590s, Chokle Namgyal prefaces his instructions on the Vajra Yoga practices with a discussion about Tathāgatagarbha. After a section on the philosophical preliminaries of Tantra, having linked the image of emptiness with the luminous nature of mind, Chokle Namgyal continues to connect the nature of mind with Tathāgatagarbha. The luminous nature of mind is Tathāgatagarbha. From the beginning, it is emptied from all adventitious stains and is the ultimate limit. It is said to be devoid of everything that is conditioned. Since from the beginning it is empty of conventional conditioned phenomena, it is free from the limits of superimpositions, consequently is non-differentiable phenomena. Because it is forever not empty due to the inconceivable phenomena of Buddhahood, it is free from the limits of being deprecated. Whatever does not exist, that which is empty, that which remains, is called continually existent. This is the luminous true reality of living beings, which is empty of an inherent nature, and because it is not other than what is emptiness due to being conditioned and adventitious, this is the great emptiness, the Tongpa Nyeri Chenmo, what is called Zhentong. For Chokle Namgyal, particularly in his context of his experiential manual for practicing the sixfold Vajra Yoga, there is a triangular configuration between the luminous nature of mind, image of emptiness, and Tathāgatagarbha. He asserts that these are not empty due to having an inherent nature, but rather recognizes their ultimate and continual presence. And I'll switch to my conclusion. In the context of the philosophical Tantra, especially within the system of thought elucidated by the Kālacakra Tantra, there is an explicative language ripe with descriptions of the capacities and efficacies of emptiness. Phrases that include the image of emptiness, animate emptiness, emptiness that is observable, emptiness that is imbued with multifaceted expressions are found throughout the Kālacakra literature. In fact, I suggest Dolpopa finds doctrinal precedent in the Kālacakra to identify the image of emptiness, the Shunyata Bimba, with Tathāgatagarbha on the grounds of the animate emptiness, the Lumpa Mayin Tongpanyit, that the Tantra articulates. While the Kālacakra canonical literature and early Tibetan authors describe in detail the practices and experiences that are said to be born from the sixfold Vajra Yoga practices, and though there is cataphatic language shared with the Tathāgatagarbha corpus, sutra corpus, and other third-turning discourses, the connection between the tantric vision of reality described by the Kālacakra and the doctrine of Tathāgatagarbha is not made explicit in the same way that Dolpopa and his immediate Zhentong disciples elucidate. For Dolpopa, and as an extension of his thought, Nyawang Kungapal and Chokle Namgyal, Tathāgatagarbha is a critical touchstone for describing the experience of absolute emptiness correlated with Vajra Yoga experience. Rather than an emphasis on being a latent potentiality that resides hidden within beings, to be discovered like a treasure trove, as we find reiterated throughout the Indic corpus, the Uttara Tantra Shastra, and so forth. Tathāgatagarbha for these authors is fully expressive, reflective, cognizant. The vision of yogic reality that they articulate understands the image of emptiness detailed in the Kālacakra exegetical literature to be dynamic, elusive expression of non-emptiness, equivalent to Tathāgatagarbha. For these Zhentong authors, Tathāgatagarbha is Tantric. Reception of the Kālacakra Tantra was not, however, unequivocal in Tibet. Along with the Kādam master Chöndam Rigbe Rautri, perhaps the most well-known critic of the Kālacakra in Tibet, was Tsongkhapa Losang Drakpa's principal teacher, Remdawa Junu Lodrom. His doubts about the authenticity of the Tantra were extensive and at least based on his key points as preserved by Taksang Lodsawa in his general commentary on the Kālacakra. Remdawa's primary objection was that the Tantra's presentation of emptiness does not align with the normative Buddhist discourse of philosophical thinking. Remdawa further critiques the Tantra's equivalence of the image of emptiness to be the body of reality, the Dharmakaya, a doctrinal parallel with Tathāgatagarbha. Tsongkhapa, however, authored several works on the Kālacakra, and during his formative years practiced the Kālacakra Vajra Yoga under both Nyawang Kongapal and Chokde Namgyal in meditation retreat at the Zhentong Mountain Hermitage. While he does not make an allusion to Tathāgatagarbha in his exposition on difficult points in the Kālacakra that he dictated to Gedrupje, Gelak Balzong, Tsongkhapa spotlights how, by relying on the Mahamudra image of emptiness, which is predominant during the fourth empowerment process, supreme, immutable, great bliss arises. In a passage detailing how the fourth empowerment of the Kālacakra is a distinguishing feature of the Tantra and how the Tantra makes non-dual gnosis explicit, Tsongkhapa clearly states that there are two types of emptiness in the Kālacakra. Emptiness that is devoid of fixations on conceptual attributes, Tenzin. The image of emptiness that gives rise to immutable great bliss. Tsongkhapa comments, to have the right view, there is emptiness that is the object to be ascertained. That is, what is to be ascertained from the intent of Nagarjuna and his successors, including the glorious Chandrakirti. For the higher and lower vehicles in all four classes of Tantras, this is normative. There is also the emptiness of the multifaceted image that is the object for the guidance techniques that accomplish immutable great bliss. This is a special Dharma teaching that is not normative. Among these two, certainly the emptiness that leads to great bliss is emphasized over the emptiness that destroys fixation on conceptual attributes. Nevertheless, just as the glorious Chandrakirti explained the emptiness that destroys fixation on conceptual attributes, according to different tantras, there is also this emptiness that is detailed very extensively. So in this way, there are two modes of emptiness. For Tsongkhapa, though he does not connect the Kālacakra vision with Tathāgatagarbha, he does acknowledge that there are two modes of emptiness. He goes on to describe how the image of emptiness is observable, migche, in the context of the emergence of immutable great bliss. This reflects language of emptiness in the Kālacakra source literature, contradicts the critique by his teacher Remdawa, and aligns Tsongkhapa more with Dolpopa's interpretation. While this passage raises important questions to explore about Tsongkhapa's tantric vision of emptiness and correlative interpretations of Tathāgatagarbha more broadly in Tibetan philosophical and intellectual discourse on Tantra, since my time has lapsed, I'll leave my thoughts on the possibilities of Tsongkhapa being a tantric Zhentongpa for another occasion. Thank you. So these are just my kind of final points. Dolpopa equates the image of emptiness, the Shunyata Bimba, with Tathāgatagarbha on the grounds of this animate emptiness, the Ajada Sunyata, which is discussed in the Kālacakra as a kind of theoretical framework. While the Kālacakra shares cataphatic language with the Tathāgatagarbha corpus, right? They're both kind of cataphatic corpuses. The connection with the Tathāgatagarbha is not explicit in the Kālacakra source literature, the Indic materials, but Dolpopa makes that connection. And finally, the two types of emptiness that are philosophical grounds for Tantra's Zhentong are the Kālacakra are acknowledged again by Tsongkhapa. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your talk, and very beautiful images you brought with illustrations.
Oh, that was, late night. Thank you. Please, Klaus. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for this fantastic presentation and this clarification that Tathāgatagarbha means image of emptiness and not empty form. So my question is, how did Tsongkhapa refer to this? Did he say Tongni Suk or Tongni Sukyen, or because how comes Gelugpa colleagues always translate as empty form? It must come from somewhere. No?
Well, I mean, if you're just looking at Tongzuk, if you're reading and you come across Tongzuk,
but does he say Tongni Suk?
let's look. I have the Wiley here. I knew Klaus would ask me for the. Yeah.
Well, we checked the Sanskrit material, and for one exception, you always have Shunyata Bimba. You never have, just once you have Shunya Bimba. And also, what we found that we have Tongni Suk, but never Tongni Sukyen.
So.
Do you have some material
So I can pull up the passage. He has all these notes on the Kālacakra, and I don't have all of them here. But I can, he does actually an interesting twist of words, now that you brought it up, if I can just make mention of my commentary on that, which I didn't have time to discuss. So, all right, here it is. For Tsongkhapa, though he does not connect Kālacakra vision with Tathāgatagarbha, he does acknowledge that there are two modes of emptiness. Okay, with a clever play on grammar, he reverses the phrase just in this one passage. In other places he says Tongpaniki Zugnyan, but in this one passage, with a clever play on grammar, he reverses the phrase from multifaceted images of emptiness to emptiness of multifaceted images, right? Nampa Tampa Chepe Zuki. But he says Zuki Tompanye, right? So he says Zuki Tompanye. Well, it doesn't. It's still Zuki Tompanye, right? Tonzuk. And then in this, he flips it the other way. Exactly. No, but he in other places in that passage he says Tongzuk all over the place, and he flips it in this way, right? So he goes on to describe how images of emptiness, Tongzuk, Tokizuknyen, are objectified and observable. He uses the word migje, right? So he discusses how emptiness is observable in the context of the emergence of immutable great bliss. This language reflects the emptiness of the Kālacakra source literature. So he's playing with the language here. It's very interesting. And this is notes, the Kejripje kind of took, Zindri and so forth, yeah.
Okay, David, please.
Yeah, so I'm unclear. So Tongpaniki Zuk or Tongpaniki Zuknyen are used interchangeably?
Yeah, that's just an abbreviation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's from Bimba, not Pati Bimba or something? Like that.
Bimba. Bimba.
So Zuk can translate Bimba or Rupa, obviously, but for Zuknyen, it's also a translation of Bimba?
In the Tibetan materials, yeah. Yeah.
My question is also related. Is there a significant difference between Tonigi Suk and Donigi Suk? Because I think it was Chokle Namgyal that described this Chuniki drop, right? So the sound,
Yeah.
it's not like Dranien. He also said Dranien, I think you have this, you said echo and then sound, and then
They're pulling that from the Prajnaparamita corpus, yeah.
so there it's just Suk, it's not Suk Yin. So I'm wondering is the difference that the image of emptiness is kind of causal in the yoga that leads to this great bliss, whereas I know that Prabhupada talks about
Right.
with ultimate forms, ultimate.
So the Zuk Nyan is a reflection referring to the prognostic images that you find in the Kālacakra. And that you'll find again and again as parallel. And that is the primary metaphor for this experience that arises during yoga, during this first yoga of withdrawal and then successively. So within then the Georgic literature, again and again, they'll use Tongzuk. So that's empty image, referring to the Kālacakra. And the metaphor is Zugnian, referring to the reflection in the prognostic mirror. So they go back and forth. So these are, one is the metaphor, or simile rather, for the other, right? So they're totally used interchangeably. So as far as what's the difference, it's context, but not. Are you asking for something else, or?
Maybe not. I mean, I'm just wondering because these ultimate forms and ultimate sounds, or the sound of
That they're pulling from the Prajnaparamita corpus.
but,
Yeah.
but they're pulling that in as well as part of this is other emptiness, because it's just this ultimate, it's there. There's the ultimate forms, ultimate sounds, ultimate smells, and things like that. So I'm just wondering if this image is somehow different. It's kind of causal, bringing that out, and then the other one is kind of the final immutable bliss. Because this, the Pratibhamba, or the Donzuk seems like it's in the context of the yoga, which elucidates that. So I'm just wondering if there's a slight distinction, but I don't know. Context, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that as you were saying, there is a distinction between like the exact referent of what appears and what is experienced, which is Tongzuk, and when there is like a usage of metaphorical language to explain how this appearance takes place, and that's when you have the Zugnian for the reflection images. So because these, as far as I could understand in general, looking at similar material, the point is really that these appearances are unmediated. It's really like, as you were presenting, like a direct perception.
Yeah, it's clearly, these are just metaphors, similes, yeah.
It's not a reflection.
Yeah.
So the idea of the reflection is this very specific example of the Shena that you were presenting.
Yeah.
And,
So I think that's how I said.
how these images appear.
Yeah. Yeah, please, Casey.
Yeah, thank you for that talk. Am I right to remember that Yumaro Mithya Dorje does make use of Tathāgatagarbha in his explanations of Mahamudra as well?
That I'd have to check, I'm not sure.
I'm pretty sure he does.
Yeah.
I would wonder if Dolpova refers to that or uses the similar quotes in the same way to kind of draw that connection in relation to.
Interesting, yeah, I haven't looked for
Okay.
Uttara Tantra quotes in Yumo's work. That's interesting, though, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, great. Yeah, Filippo.
I wanted to ask you, since it's very clear that, for example, looking in Taranata's Tomadundan and Lantap in particular, that even like an ordinary being, so like someone who's just starting to practice the 6 yogas can have kind of easily a direct perception of emptiness to the experience of Tongzuk. This kind of creates a problem with the 5-path model, where like it is said that of course you have like the first direct experience of emptiness only when you you have access to the path of seeing, and then that's the point when you automatically become an Arya and you have achieved the first boon. Have you found in this literature, in any of these texts, a parallel or like the presentation of Zhentong within this 5-path?
No, I haven't seen any discussion on that,
That's
yeah.
very interesting.
No, but the whole idea is that they're progressive, right? So even though if we're in the first withdrawal, the first yoga of withdrawal, you can have the experience, but it's not stabilized. So how that correlates to the 5 paths, I've not seen discussed, but that's an interesting question, yeah. Great.
Yeah, please.
No.
You have something more. You have one more question,
Is
please?
there a relationship between the images of emptiness and visual experiences in Turtle section?
So that's actually very interesting. I actually have a footnote and probably a version I didn't include on actually David Higgins and others, where we were discussing about the sort of 4th vision of Togyal and sort of what comes about and different descriptions of that from Longchenpa, and then in later discussions, and whether there are sort of parallels and all. It's a fascinating discussion, but one that deserves a lot more attention than I've had for it. It's what's great about the Dzogchen literature is that you have this long history of polemic within it, and with the Kālacakra material, particularly in the Zhentong, because post-Taranatha, post-17th century, of course the tradition goes to Amdo, but you don't have the same kind of intellectual life and kind of discourse more broadly with this Kālacakra material that was developed up into the 17th century. So because the tradition becomes so isolated in Amdo, they develop their own tradition, but it's largely insulary. It doesn't have the kind of back and forth discourse, intellectual discourse that, say, the Dzogchen tradition had or other traditions. So, yeah. Please.
Okay, one last question before we move on. Yes, please.
In Kālacakra, there is a word, Tathāgatagarbha. Is it related to the idea of the Buddha nature?
Can you say it again?
It said, Tathāgatagarbha. It might be.
You find that in the Kālacakra and the Root Tantra? Yeah? Fantastic. There you go. I've not seen that referenced. Which chapter is that in?
I will inform you later.
Yeah, that'd be great. That's fantastic. Thank you.
Good, yeah. So thank you once again.